The story of the F-16 Fighting Falcon begins not with a desire to build the most powerful fighter in the world, but with a reaction against excess. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, the United States Air Force found itself at a crossroads. Advanced aircraft like the F-4 Phantom Turbojet had demonstrated impressive speed and firepower, yet combat experience during the Vietnam War revealed serious shortcomings. Heavy, complex fighters designed around missile combat often failed to achieve the expected dominance in real air battles. Pilots repeatedly found themselves in close-range engagements where agility, visibility, and pilot awareness mattered more than raw speed or radar range. These lessons sparked a debate inside the U.S. military aviation community. A group of reform-minded officers and engineers began to question the prevailing philosophy that newer fighters had to be larger, heavier, and more complex. They argued instead for a lightweight, highly maneuverable aircraft optimized for air combat. This movement became known as the lightweight fighter concept. Its advocates believed that air superiority could be achieved not only through advanced technology, but through simplicity, responsiveness, and pilot-centered design. One of the most influential figures behind this idea was Colonel John Boyd, a fighter pilot and strategist whose energy maneuverability theory reshaped how air combat performance was understood. Boyd argued that the ability to gain and maintain energy advantage in a dogfight was decisive. His ideas challenged established procurement priorities and faced resistance from parts of the Air Force hierarchy. Yet by the early 1970s, the need for a new approach became increasingly difficult to ignore. The lightweight fighter program was formally initiated as an experimental effort rather than a guaranteed production project. The goal was to explore whether a small, agile fighter could outperform larger, more expensive aircraft in air-to-air combat. Two competing prototypes emerged: the YF-16, developed by General Dynamics, and the YF-17, developed by Northrop. Both aircraft emphasized maneuverability, acceleration, and simplicity, but they reflected different design philosophies. The YF-16 distinguished itself almost immediately. It featured a relaxed static stability design controlled by a digital fly-by-wire system, allowing for exceptional agility that would have been impossible with traditional mechanical controls. The aircraft's bubble canopy provided unmatched visibility, and its side-mounted control stick allowed pilots to withstand higher G-forces. Even the pilot's seat was reclined to improve tolerance during intense maneuvers. Every aspect of the design reflected a focus on the human element of air combat. In 1974, during its first high-speed taxi test, the YF-16 unexpectedly lifted off the runway, marking an unplanned but symbolic first flight. Subsequent testing confirmed its performance advantages. The aircraft demonstrated superior turning ability, acceleration, and handling compared to its rival. Although the program was initially intended as a technology demonstrator, changing strategic realities soon elevated its importance. At the same time, NATO allies were facing their own challenges. Many European air forces were operating aging fleets of fighters that were becoming increasingly expensive to maintain and inadequate against modern threats. There was growing interest in a common, affordable fighter that could be shared across alliance members. This requirement aligned perfectly with the lightweight fighter philosophy. In 1975, the U.S. Air Force selected the YF-16 for full-scale development. The decision marked a turning point. What began as an experimental concept was now set to become a frontline fighter. The aircraft was officially designated the F-16 Fighting Falcon, though pilots would later give it the affectionate nickname Viper. From the outset, the F-16 was designed with flexibility in mind. While optimized for air-to-air combat, it was also capable of carrying a wide range of air-to-ground weapons. This multirole potential would prove decisive for its long-term success. Unlike specialized fighters that excelled in a narrow mission set, the F-16 could adapt to changing operational needs without fundamental redesign. The aircraft entered service in the late 1970s, just as the Cold War was entering a new phase. Advances in Soviet air defenses and fighter aircraft underscored the importance of maintaining numerical and qualitative superiority. The F-16 offered a solution that balanced performance and cost. It was cheaper to acquire and operate than heavier fighters, allowing air forces to field it in large numbers. NATO adoption accelerated rapidly. Countries such as Belgium, the Netherlands, Denmark, and Norway joined the program early, establishing production lines in Europe and embedding the F-16 deeply into alliance air power. This multinational approach strengthened interoperability and ensured that the aircraft would not be a purely American platform, but a shared standard across much of the Western world. By the early 1980s, the F-16 had already begun to redefine what a modern fighter could be. It proved that advanced performance did not require excessive complexity, and that a pilot-focused design could deliver decisive advantages. Yet this was only the beginning of the aircraft's story. As technology evolved and conflicts changed in nature, the F-16 would be repeatedly tested, modified, and reinvented. What started as a lightweight dogfighter was about to become something far more significant. A true workhorse of modern air warfare, capable of adapting to missions and threats that its original designers could scarcely have imagined. As the F-16 entered widespread service in the late 1970s and early 1980s, it quickly moved beyond its original role as a lightweight air-to-air fighter. The strategic environment of the Cold War demanded versatility, and the Fighting Falcon proved uniquely suited to adaptation. While its agility and pilot-centered design made it formidable in aerial combat, its true impact emerged when air forces began to exploit its potential as a multirole platform. One of the earliest and most influential operators of the F-16 was Israel. Facing constant regional threats and limited strategic depth, the Israeli Air Force placed a premium on aircraft that could respond rapidly, strike precisely, and survive in heavily defended airspace. Israeli F-16s demonstrated these qualities in 1981 during Operation Opera, the long-range strike against Iraq's Osirak nuclear reactor. Although the mission was highly risky, the success of the operation showcased the F-16's range, payload flexibility, and precision strike capability. This event significantly shaped global perceptions of the aircraft. Throughout the 1980s, the F-16 increasingly shifted toward air-to-ground missions. Advances in targeting systems, guided munitions, and avionics allowed the aircraft to deliver precision strikes with growing accuracy. This transformation did not come at the expense of air-to-air performance. Instead, it expanded the F-16's relevance. Air forces now had an aircraft that could defend airspace, support ground forces, and conduct deep strike missions within a single fleet. The end of the Cold War did not diminish the importance of the F-16. On the contrary, regional conflicts of the 1990s provided new environments in which its adaptability could be tested. During Operation Desert Storm in 1991, the F-16 became one of the most heavily used coalition aircraft. Flying thousands of sorties, it performed suppression of enemy air defenses, close air support, and strike missions against Iraqi military infrastructure. Although it faced modern surface-to-air missile threats, the aircraft proved resilient, particularly as tactics and countermeasures evolved during the campaign. In Europe, NATO relied heavily on the F-16 during operations in the Balkans. Throughout the 1990s, Fighting Falcons participated in enforcing no-fly zones over Bosnia, and later in combat operations during the Kosovo conflict. These missions highlighted the aircraft's ability to operate within multinational coalitions, integrating seamlessly with allied command structures and rules of engagement. The F-16's widespread adoption across NATO simplified coordination and logistics, reinforcing its reputation as the alliance's workhorse. Meanwhile, continuous upgrades ensured that the F-16 remained competitive. Improved radar systems, electronic warfare suites, and compatibility with advanced weapons extended its operational life. The introduction of precision-guided munitions fundamentally changed how the aircraft was used. Rather than relying on massed bombing, F-16 pilots could strike high-value targets with fewer sorties and reduced collateral damage. This capability aligned closely with evolving Western doctrines that emphasized precision and information dominance. Beyond large-scale wars, the F-16 became a constant presence in smaller conflicts and routine security operations. It conducted patrols, interception missions, and deterrence flights across Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. In many regions, the aircraft served as the first line of defense against airspace violations, reinforcing its image as a reliable and versatile platform rather than a specialized elite system. The aircraft's export success further expanded its global footprint. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, the F-16 was in service with dozens of air forces worldwide. Each operator adapted the aircraft to its specific needs, adding national avionics, weapons, and mission profiles. This flexibility allowed the F-16 to remain relevant across vastly different strategic environments, from high-intensity conflict zones to routine air policing missions. Despite its success, challenges emerged. As air defense systems became more advanced, questions arose about the survivability of non-stealth aircraft in contested environments. The F-16's design predated modern stealth concepts, and while upgrades improved its electronic warfare capabilities, it could not achieve the low observability of newer platforms. This reality gradually shifted its role in high-end conflict planning, where stealth aircraft began to take the lead. Nevertheless, the F-16 continued to prove its value by evolving alongside these changes. Instead of being sidelined, it was integrated into layered force structures, operating in conjunction with stealth platforms, airborne warning systems, and unmanned assets. In this role, it remained indispensable, capable of carrying large weapon loads, sustaining high sortie rates, and performing missions that would be inefficient or unnecessary for more specialized aircraft. By the early 2000s, the F-16 had firmly established itself as more than a lightweight fighter. It had become a true battlefield workhorse, trusted by pilots and commanders alike. Its record across multiple conflicts, combined with its adaptability and widespread adoption, ensured that it would remain a central element of NATO and Allied air power, even as newer generations of aircraft entered service. Yet the story was far from over. As the nature of warfare continued to evolve and fifth-generation fighters emerged, the question shifted from whether the F-16 had been successful to how it would coexist with the next generation. That question would define the final phase of the Fighting Falcon's journey. As the 21st century progressed, the F-16 Fighting Falcon faced a reality that few aircraft ever encounter. It had outlived the era it was designed for. Conceived during the Cold War and proven in the conflicts that followed, the aircraft now operated alongside fifth-generation fighters built on entirely different design philosophies. Rather than being replaced outright, the F-16 adapted once again, reshaping its role within modern air forces. One of the key reasons for the F-16's longevity has been its extraordinary capacity for modernization. Over decades of service, the aircraft underwent continuous upgrades that transformed its capabilities. Improved engines increased thrust and reliability. New radar systems dramatically enhanced detection and targeting performance. The integration of advanced electronic warfare suites improved survivability against modern threats. These changes allowed older airframes to remain operationally relevant, far beyond their original design life. The introduction of active electronically scanned array radars marked a particularly significant milestone. AESA radars provided greater range, faster target tracking, resistance to jamming, and enhanced air-to-ground mapping capabilities. With these systems, modernized F-16s could detect and engage targets more effectively while contributing to a broader network of sensors and shooters. This upgrade blurred the gap between 4th and 5th generation aircraft in many operational scenarios. Another major evolution came through the F-16V, often referred to as the Viper configuration. This variant incorporated advanced avionics, modern displays, improved mission computers, and compatibility with the latest precision-guided weapons. For many air forces, upgrading existing fleets to the F-16V standard proved more cost-effective than acquiring entirely new aircraft. This approach extended the Fighting Falcon's service life well into the 2030s and beyond. By this stage, the role of the F-16 had become more clearly defined. In high-end conflict planning, stealth aircraft such as the F-35 were expected to penetrate the most heavily defended airspace and neutralize critical threats. The F-16, in turn, would exploit the resulting advantages, delivering mass, persistence, and firepower once air defenses were degraded. This division of labor reflected a broader shift in air power doctrine toward layered and integrated operations, rather than reliance on a single perfect platform. The F-16 continued to see operational use in real-world conflicts. It flew combat missions in the Middle East, supported counterterrorism operations, and participated in air policing and deterrence missions across Europe. In many cases, its presence alone served as a stabilizing factor, demonstrating readiness and capability without escalating to direct confrontation. These missions reinforced the aircraft's reputation as a dependable, everyday tool of air power. Global demand for the F-16 did not fade. On the contrary, new customers continued to emerge. Nations seeking to modernize their air forces without the cost and complexity of fifth-generation fighters found the F-16 an attractive option. Its extensive combat record, well-established logistics network, and interoperability with NATO systems made it a low-risk choice. For smaller air forces in particular, the aircraft offered a balance of performance, affordability, and long-term support unmatched by most alternatives. By 2025, thousands of F-16s remained in service worldwide. While some early airframes were approaching retirement, others had been structurally reinforced and upgraded to extend their operational life. The aircraft's widespread adoption ensured a vast ecosystem of training, maintenance, and operational experience. This institutional knowledge became a strategic asset in itself, reducing barriers to effective employment across diverse environments. Critics have long argued that non-stealth aircraft face increasing vulnerability in modern contested airspace. This concern is not unfounded. Advanced integrated air defense systems pose real challenges. Yet the continued use of the F-16 demonstrates a more nuanced reality. Not every mission requires stealth, and not every conflict unfolds at the highest level of technological intensity. In many scenarios, numbers, persistence, and flexibility matter as much as low observability. The enduring relevance of the F-16 lies precisely in this balance. It is not the most advanced fighter in the sky, nor was it ever intended to be. Instead, it is an aircraft that consistently delivers reliable capabilities across a wide spectrum of missions. It can intercept, strike, patrol, deter, and support, often on the same day, from the same base, with minimal adaptation. Few aircraft in history have matched this level of versatility. Looking back, the Fighting Falcon's journey reflects broader trends in modern military aviation. It shows that successful aircraft are not defined solely by cutting-edge technology, but by adaptability, scalability, and the ability to evolve alongside changing doctrine. The F-16's design allowed it to absorb new systems, new weapons, and new roles without losing its core strengths. As of 2025, the F-16 Fighting Falcon stands as one of the most influential combat aircraft ever built. It has fought in major wars, shaped alliance air power, and served generations of pilots across the globe. While newer platforms continue to enter service, the F-16 remains a cornerstone of many air forces, a reminder that effectiveness in warfare is often measured not by novelty, but by reliability over time. This is why the F-16 has earned its enduring reputation as the workhorse of NATO, not because it dominates headlines, but because it consistently does the work required, day after day, mission after mission, adapting to new challenges while carrying the legacy of decades of combat experience into the modern era.